talk about what held you back from taking the exams at a faster pace.
Yeah. So the first couple, like I said, like I kind of banged them out and kind of passed them first go around.
Hmm.
And then like I just had way too much going on. Like I started a nonprofit. I had basically life going on. So that got crazy. But then like Mark, like I found out that I was going to be having a kid, and that was like the most incredible incentive ever to like finish your exams, because once you have a baby, like you have no time to do anything anymore. So um basically there was like a 2 year gap in between the first four and the last three, where I was just like stuck on project work, and there was just no time to study.
Yeah, yeah, I can relate. I know having that baby is a huge incentive to get moving. Stephanie, how about you? What held you back from taking the exams faster?
Yeah, so one thing I did once I got going was really hold myself to the one test per month schedule. But I would say in the beginning it was a little bit difficult. I started my exams in September and took the first one in October. And then shortly after October comes all the holidays. So for me, it was a struggle between family time and study time and traveling to see family. So uh, that was probably the biggest glitch for me, was starting so near the holidays. In hindsight, maybe starting in January would have been good, and then just plow straight through.
Yeah, so sort of watch out for the holidays. Okay. Anne?
Yeah, so I am friends and peers and colleagues with Charlie Clutcha, who's somewhat known for taking and passing his seven exams in 7 days.
Right.
And so that's the bar that I knew and was associated with. And so I felt like a bit of a slacker, the fact that I could only do one a month, and struggled to make that happen. So in reality, the reason I didn't take them faster was just my sanity. And I learned after the first exam, I studied for 6 weeks. And failed it. And at that point, I knew that I had too tight of a grip on the whole process. So I had to have a loose hold in general for the entire process. So,
What do you mean by that? I don't know what you mean, a loose hold. What do you mean?
like that first exam, there was just so much wrapped up in it. And I think the whole process in general, I think what prevents a lot of people from studying and ultimately passing is the fear of failure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's ultimately what drives people to make the decisions they do. And so after taking and failing my first exam, which was CDS, and I was also in 4.0, I realized that I couldn't dedicate that much time and energy to fail an exam. So the fact that I then planned on failure instead of passing, which is somewhat dismal, but that was, if I planned on failing, I wasn't disappointed, and I didn't question every decision I've ever made in my life as to if I'm on the right path or not. So yeah, that's, I guess, what I mean by having a looser hold. In the beginning, this whole process is just such a serious, it's taken so seriously, and when you fail, it's embarrassing, and I'm just trying to remove the stigma around the form, like the tension around it, I guess, and just to not have such a death grip on the process and have so much of your identity based in the fact that you pass or fail the exams. So that's what I mean by having a looser hold. Just
that's super interesting. I think you're right. I think a lot of folks, myself included, right, find that to be an impediment. Mike says something interesting often, which is you don't have to tell anyone if you passed or failed. Right, so that's one thing to kind of think about for everyone out there. And then also, he always sort of suggests, if when he's talking with a group of architects, he always says, hey, if you guys were a group of MBA students and you had to pass these exams, I bet half of you guys would go ahead and take these exams and not tell anyone and not even study, just go take them all, knowing that just based on the laws of probability, you'd probably pass, 30 or 50% of them or something like that, and never have to study for those guys at all. Which I think it's just a good exercise, because as you say, Anne, sometimes us as architects, I mean, our job is in many ways to be perfect. So it's kind of it's kind of tricky to step back and say, like, well, whatever, if I don't pass this, we'll just take it again.
Yep.
All right, Jason.
Yeah, the psychology.
Go ahead, Ivan. Sorry.
Well, the psychology of it all is really interesting. One of the things that I did to kind of deal with like the fear of failure, because it's just not freeze up, like you have to take them regardless, and so just kind of, study and take them. I had this friend in undergrad that was like sort of notorious for being like a party animal, but he was in like petroleum engineering and had a 4.0. And you'd ask him, like, dude, how do you do this? And he would just say, just study and take the exam. Like, don't think about it too much, because like we're our own worst enemies, and I guarantee you, like, some of the people that we look up to the most have like failed something in their lives. And yeah, just have to get over that stigma, because you're going to fail something at some point, This is just like a reading comprehension test, so no biggie. Just take them.
That's awesome. I love it. Jason, how about you?
If I could add to that.
Oh, go ahead, Stephanie. Yeah, sure.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, something I always tried to walk away from the test, because you always have the idea in your mind. Did I pass? Did I fail? You can kind of lean towards one or the other. But what I always tried to take away at the end was, what did I learn from this test, no matter what the results come out as? And, as soon as I would get out of the testing center, get back to my car, I would just try to get that down on paper. What did I learn, or how do I feel this came out? That way, if you did come out and you failed the test, you can turn that into that learning experience, because you've seen the material once now. You've been through the whole process. So just take that and turn it into a positive moving forward. You can go confidently into your second retake.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's really awesome. Jason, how about you? What are your thoughts here?
So when I took the exams, I know it's a little different now. I think there's some grading or some acknowledgement of your pass or fail within a couple days now. When I took the exams, we had to wait for a letter to come in the mail, which sometimes took 6-7 weeks. So I would wait until I got that pass or fail letter. If I passed, I used that as momentum going into the next exam. If I failed, I kind of, what Stephanie was just saying, I kind of regrouped. I learned from it. I kind of reflected on what I think I might have overthought or something like that. So it was more take one exam, wait for the letter, take my time, pace myself. I set a goal of finishing everything in about a year and a half, and I hit that goal. I felt that was more realistic than doing one every 6 or 7 months, or one every month for 6 or 7 months, long. So that was kind of my game plan.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's an interesting point about setting a goal. I certainly know some folks in my universe who they just never really set a goal for themselves, and that was something that really kind of, because they didn't really have a goal, was like, well, I don't know, I'll take it whenever I kind of get to it, and then life kind of gets in the way and that kind of thing. Can you guys, anyone in particular, comment on that idea of setting a goal? I think that's what we've heard already. Jason, you've talked about setting a goal of 1.5 years.
Yeah, I can add a little bit more to that if you want.
Do. Yeah.
Just, living here in Chicago, Mark, the winters are horrible and the summers are wonderful. So I kind of planned out my test taking thinking, okay, the summer, the wonderful months of June, July, August, September, I'm going to party and I'm not going to take tests. I'm not going to study. I'm going to hang out with my friends. So, just setting kind of a timeline between, 12 or 18 months really helped me figure out, all those things with, potentially having a kid or getting a new job, or, when I took the exams, it was right at the recession. So people were getting let go, and there was that fear of how am I going to even pay for the test. So just having some sort of game plan definitely helps in the long run.
Anyone else have any comments here? Ivan?
Yeah, my game plan started a long time ago. Like when I was like 9 years old, I was like, I'm gonna be an architect by the time I'm 35. And and so, when you start to see 35 like bend in the corner, you're like, oh, okay, I need to take these exams.
Yeah.
And it's kind of similar to what Anne said. Like she said, she wanted to do it before 31. I mean, Father Time will get you going.